welcome to Blackbriar Gaming. Well, the leaks have started to come through. It appears that certain stores are getting their product early. They are getting Libers in the door. They're getting rulebooks, and we are starting to see some of that come through. One particular lad has started opening the book and taking pictures of them. Now, they're coming through in a choppy manner. We've only got bits and pieces. There's Legion-specific stuff coming through. At the moment, I've seen some Space Wolves, some White Scars, some Imperial Fist stuff, but that's not what we'll be looking at today. Raven Guard as well. We've got a lot of Raven Guard stuff there. The person taking these pictures is obviously a Raven Guard fan, but that's not what we're going to look at today. What we're going to look at is the generic Astartes Liber. This is the Loyalist one that we're getting leaks for at the moment. Nothing traitor yet, but I thought I'd just go through the pages we have of the Astartes Liber, because frankly, I have to get to work, and I'm doing this very rapid fire in the morning before I head off to get it out to you, the viewer, in case you're not seeing these. And I don't know how widespread these are. Please let me know in the comments if they are widespread. But at the moment, they're coming through, and on the Discord, there's a lot of conversation around them. That is the Blackbriar Discord, which gets me into what I have to remind you about, is that the Blackbriar Gaming Discord and Patreon are now live. You can check the video description below for links to both. As always, a huge thank you to my Patreon members. You're the ones making this channel possible. Okay, back into it. So I've woke up this morning to a flurry of leaks. I think over the next few days we're going to see a lot, if not everything, but let's have a look at what we've got today. So here we have the contents for the entire Legiones Astartes army list. You can see there's some new things and there's some things taken away is mainly what I want to put here. Also, we get a really good idea now of what belongs where. One of the main concerns was that things like heavy support squads would be in the troops area because, of course, they were troops traditionally, and therefore people would just create armies full of heavy support squads. Well, that is not the case, and there's tons of information here about what goes where and why that makes it interesting. There's also a couple of things missing. The main one is destroyers. It appears that destroyers are not on the list. They're moving over to the legacy army list. I don't love that. People are going to be very upset about it. Destroyers are quite popular. They're in a lot of armies. But do remember, people, just because it's in legacy doesn't mean you can't play with it. Every single tournament, I have no doubt, will include legacy units. But what kind of treatment they'll get in that Legacy Army list, we'll have to wait and see. Traditionally, the Legacy Army list has been a bit hit and miss with the rules, but I can't comment on that at this time. It seems that the consoles too have been cut down by 1 or 2, I believe, but I haven't really had the time to go through them all and see what it is. The ones that jumped out at me were the different command squads that we've got here. So we now have 5 different types of command squads between Praetorians, Centurions, and then the Terminator variant separate to that. The one with the jump packs is interesting. I do believe you could give them jump packs previously, but now Centurion command squads can't get jump packs. So a little bit more specificity around command squads, different ones and what they can do. The elite area is quite limited and of course does not include Terminators. They are in heavy assault. They're in a different area. But we do have the try that again. The veteran tactical squad. I literally woke up 20 minutes ago. And the veteran assault squad here. And we do have the rules for those, and we'll have a look at them in a minute. Seekers are over in elites, as opposed to recon. Moving down, troops only includes tactical despoilers, assault, and breaches. If we move up to support, that is a really full area. So not only do you have your tactical support squads and your heavy support squads, you've got things like your rapier batteries and your Arachne quad accelerator platforms, and at the same time you have, seems like we're missing some other things as well. I'll look at that more in further detail at another time. But you've got your apothecaries and your tech marines in here as well. So if one apothecary, and I dare say it'll be a few, right? So let's say 3 apothecaries takes up a support area, a support slot, I guess, it's going to really limit what else you can take. So I think the support slots, the support options are going to be very popular, and I think that will jam up army list building just a smidge. We then go into our war engines, where you've got all the dreadnoughts, you've got transports, and then heavy transports, and what's in the different ones makes sense. Then we go into Recon. So you can see here you've got your Recon squad, you've got Sabres, you've got Outrider squadrons here, as opposed to in Fast Attack. Now, I quite like that, because that really... here's your Tarantula batteries, that's what I was looking for before. They're not in Sport, they're in Recon. So I like how they've differentiated between Recon and Fast Attack. By putting the Outrider squadrons in here, it actually gives you a bit of play space and a bit of design space to differentiate them from the Scimitar Jetbike squadron, and might make them more popular in certain lists. Fast Attack, all the things you'd expect. Let's keep going. I want to make this pretty short and sharp, as I am trying to get this out, as I said, before work. We now get into the armor, all the things you would expect, into the Lords of War, and then here you can see all of the units and special characters that you get within the Loyalist Legions. Now, I haven't looked at this list yet. I don't know what it has and what it's missing. Please say in the comments below if there's anything that you see missing in here that you think should be in here. But just looking over it quickly, it looks like it has most of the things we expect, including the consoles, the Legion-specific consoles, which is nice. You got all the Legion-specific units. I'm seeing a lot of special characters, so it looks like those extra special characters that we got throughout 2nd edition are being included. You know, Zephon, for instance, for the Blood Angels. So this looks pretty comprehensive, and it doesn't look like too much is missed here. Moving on. War gear list. Alright, we've got this war gear list up the front. Interestingly, in a lot of the unit entries, instead of listing out every single weapon and piece of equipment that unit can take, it just sends you in the direction of this war gear list, which I quite like. This is kind of old school 40k is used to do this, and I think it's a nice way to do it so that we don't have unit entries going on and on and on, and it allows them a lot more freedom to let's say, sergeants of units take any kind of weapon that's in this Legion Sergeant melee option, as opposed to having to write this out every single time. So I think we'll see a little more freedom in the war gear that certain characters and certain units can take, just because this list exists. Now, you've got a lot of point stuff here. I'm not going to get deep into the points. There's no doubt some differentiation between 2nd edition and this edition, 3rd edition, if you will. I'm just looking at them quickly now. Let's see what the sergeants can take. You got power weapons. You've got, are they the same? Nah, there you go. Yeah, no, this all looks pretty familiar. There's some interesting weapon options when we get into the units, though. So look at this in your time. Go through the points. Go nuts. I want to get into this. So here we have the Veteran Tactical Squad. So upper ballistic skill 5, which I think we already knew. Special rules, line 1. So that's interesting. So it does have the line rule. Does the assault one have the line rule? We're about to find out. Probably not. But that's it for special rules. That's all the Veteran Tactical Squads get. So there's certainly reasons to be taking tactical squads over these guys, I dare say, but we can't talk too much to that because we don't have actual tactical squads rule. We've got some of the spicier stuff first. They're getting disintegrator rifles for only plus 5 points per model. Sorry, I'll go back up to the stats. I'm jumping all over the place. So we've got ballistic skill 5, wins 2, expected. The leadership maxes out at 8. So it appears that when your sergeant dies, this is where the veterans get the advantage, is that then they all have leadership 8. But certainly veteran sergeant isn't getting leadership 9, for instance. Still only a willpower of 7 and an intelligence of 7, so they're no better, for instance, at resisting warp powers than regular tactical marines, which I think is absolutely fine. They come standard with bolter and bolt pistol. You got your grenades, but yeah, now we get into the interesting stuff. So in the options, they can take shotguns, which is a lot of fun. They can take disintegrator rifles at only 5 points, which I think is going to be a very popular option. You got Volkite charges in here, and that's where it stops. So this unit is very much focused on the disintegrator piece, because then for every 5 models in the unit, one of them can have... Oh no, here we go. The bolt may be exchanged for 1 item from the Legion special weapons list, or 1 item from the Legion heavy weapon list. Heavy weapon list, interesting. So if we pop back and we look at the specialist, so 1 for every 5 can take flamers, plasma guns, melter guns, Volkite charges, cavaliers, or rotor cannons, or, a las cannon, if you're that way inclined. And certainly the las cannon is going to cost, and that's interesting. It'll be interesting to see the points differentiation between these guys, or ballistic skill 5, and then your regular heavy support squad, which is, of course, only ballistic skill 4. But being able to put these heavy weapons into veterans with ballistic skill 5 is pretty nice, so we may see a bit of that. or one of the following. And then you've got the Disintegrator Blaster and the Heavy Disintegrator. So it appears that heavy sports squads probably won't get access to the Disintegrator Blaster or the Heavy Disintegrator, and it may be that they're very specific to veterans, kind of matching in with that theme of pre-Unity stuff. These guys have been around for a while and hence may have access to that more dangerous and more esoteric ancient weaponry. Other than that, there's not too much to talk about here. You can give them bayonets and chain bayonets if you're that way inclined, but yeah, I think these are going to be disintegrator squads, just disintegrating everything they can get their hands on. Let's move on. Here we've got the Veteran Assault Squad. The quality of the picture, someone snapping these fast and heavy and doing their best. It is what it is. The first thing to note here, of course, weapon skill 5. Do we know if the weapon skill table still works the same? I think we do, so that weapon skill 5 will still be very important. You've got the, of course I don't have line there, Vanguard. Sorry, jumping around. They've got Assault 3. Now, I think what we're seeing here is that the special rule for 2 close combat weapons, which was a bit clunky on when it worked and when it didn't with different handed weapons, I think that's being removed, unless I'm incorrect. I don't know that for sure, but that 3 attack implies that you no longer get +1 attack for having 2 close combat weapons or 2 one-handed weapons, and instead you've just got the extra pip in their attack here. But on the charge, do they get an extra attack? I assume so still, and therefore you'd be looking at 4 attacks on the charge, which is, it's pretty good. And what you'd expect, of course. But they do not have the line special rule here. Instead, of course, they've got Deep Strike and Bulky, but they've got the Vanguard 3 special rule, and that's so good. Now, reminder, Vanguard is when if you destroy a unit that's holding an objective or make it rout off that objective, you therefore get the points. You cannot capture, and I think then you can still hold objectives, but you only get the 1 victory point for doing so. Whereas if we looked back at the Veteran Tactical, they're getting that extra point from the line special rule, and therefore sitting back holding your own objectives is a good way to use them. But this Vanguard 3 is huge. So you jump on in, you send a unit fleeing or destroy a unit off of an objective, you then sit there and hold it, you're getting 4 points for that turn, assuming that objective is only worth 1 point, but other objectives are worth more in the way the missions work. If you're interested in seeing those mission special rules, of course I have another video on those leaks, go and find it. But in regards to war gear, we've got the bolt pistol, we've got the chainsword, great. These guys apparently love chain axes. So chain axes seem to be a new thing for the Veteran Assault Squad. Nope. No, I'm thinking of the Assault Squad we're going to look at next, but let's see, what do we got here? So any model in this unit may exchange its chainsword for an item from the Legion Sergeant melee weapon list. So these guys can just take all kinds of things. So power weapons, thunder hammers, power fists, lightning claws, you can absolutely just equip these guys to the nines. That's a lot of fun. So all power weapons if you're that way inclined. You can give them combat shields. The Veteran Sergeant can get a Disintegrator Pistol. And remember, you do get to shoot your pistols when you're charging into combat now, as well as shooting them before you do that, from my understanding. So pistols are going to get a lot more powerful, and I think Disintegrator Pistols are going to be quite popular in this edition, unless, of course, it gets hot and kills you. But you're not too upset if you lose your Sergeant in this unit, because, of course, it's got the exact same statistics as your normal veterans. Once again, more for every 5 models, more Disintegrator Pistols. Alright, so you can, in a squad of 10, you can just have 3 Disintegrator Pistols. You can get pairs of Lightning Claws. Can't wait to see what the rules for Lightning Claws look like in this edition. I think they'll look a little different. And then, if you're that way inclined, you can start getting heavy chain axes and heavy chain swords. But considering you can give everyone a power weapon, you might go down that direction instead. Alright, moving on. We've got the regular Assault Squad. So these are the guys that love chain axes. So if you look in here, pretty much any model may exchange its chainsword for a chain axe. So not only the World Eaters now being all about chain axes, apparently Assault Squads love them as well. And it will be interesting to see if that differentiates them from your Despoiler squads, or whether the Despoilers can also chain axe up. But if we look up their stats, Nothing exciting, everything we expect. Once again, that attack value of 2 instead of 1, implying that extra weapons do not give you that extra attack. The special rules, they've got Vanguard 2 instead of Vanguard 3. Now, Vanguard 2 is still pretty nice. If we look at the options, the Sergeant can get a cheeky disintegrator pistol there. Legion Sergeant, and the Sergeant, of course, can access Legion Sergeant melee list. That makes a lot of sense. Let's see, what else we got? We've got combat shields. We've got pairs of lightning claws just for the Sergeant, not everyone like in the veterans. Everything you'd expect. Just a melt bomb for the Sergeant there. I don't believe melt bombs can be smacked onto dreadnoughts in this edition, but I can't confirm that at this time. Now, for every 5 models, one assault legionary in this unit may have one of the following. So you've got a power weapon, you've got a charnable saber, or you've got a heavy chainsaw. But then, as well as that, for every 5 models, 2 assault legionaries may exchange their chainswords for heavy chain axes. So, if you've got a squad of 10, which is what this comes standard as, you can see that written up the top now is where they talk about that and what the extra points for the models are. For every 10, you can have, now I'm pretty sure, 6 kind of special close combat weapons within your regular guys, plus your Sergeant doing something fancy. So you can really kit these guys out. Now, a lot of those are going to look like heavy chain axes. In fact, 4 of your 10 will be just kicking around with heavy chain axes for whatever reason. They just love it. They love the chain and the axe. And then at the same time, for every 5 models, 1 assault legionary in this unit may have its bolt pistol exchanged for something from the Legion pistol list. Let's have a look at the Legion pistol list. That's kind of new and interesting. Plasma pistol, hand flamer, Volkite, Serpenta. So no disintegrator pistols for your regular Marines. That's just special for the veterans. But a bunch of hand flamers could be interesting if that's routing things, because of course routing gets your Vanguard going. That Vanguard too. So that is the Assault Squad. I think they have a really interesting and unique place in armies now with that Vanguard piece. And you definitely want to have that combined arms piece between units that have line and want to sit on your objectives, and units that have Vanguard and want to push enemy units off their objectives. I think the game's going to get really interesting from that perspective. But moving on, we've got the Outrider Squadron here. So these guys are cheap. Are they as cheap as they were in the previous edition? I've got the rulebook just next to me here so I can compare stuff as we go. Let's find some Outriders. Let's see, 85 points. They look... No, they're the same. They're the same there. Okay, very good. What's interesting about these guys? We've got 2 wounds, which is fantastic. Thank goodness. They only had 1 wound. In the 2nd edition, they've got 2 wounds here. So already that's a huge change, especially since instant death isn't kicking around. Now, of course, there are lots of damage weapons, so that will even out. Firestorm as a special rule. What the hell does Firestorm do? I can't wait to see that. You've got that flank piece, which is interesting. So lots of really different special rules from what we had in 2nd edition. So these guys are really being changed up. It'll be interesting to see whether they're popular. Remember, of course, they've got Vanguard 1 because cavalry cannot hold objectives. So I expected to see that Vanguard. We'll see if it carries over into the Scimitars. Now, they can take Legion equipment. That's your Vexilla and your... what's it called? Your Vox situation. Nuncio Vox. That's what that is when you see that equipment piece there. You've got the Sergeant taking different things. Any model in the unit can look at the Legion pistol list. So just hand flamers, just Outriders with hand flamers for days, making units run off objectives. Love it. They can take... all models in the unit can take twin plasma guns. That's pretty spicy. Although plasma, I don't think is as good as it used to be. I think it's getting worse with every edition because I think it's only breaching 5+ now when you're overloading it, when you're taking that risk to overheat. And any model have their chainsword exchanged for an established shotgun. Okay, cool. We'll see what shotguns do. They've never been overly fantastic, but look, a lot of weapons are getting a breath of new life in this edition, and this may be the same. But here we've got the Outriders, and of course we can see, as we know up the top, they are not in that generic fast attack piece anymore. They're more in the recon space. It's not called recon, is it? It's called something different, but it's a nice way to differentiate them from your jet bikes. So these look a lot better. That 2 wounds alone makes these things much better, and I can't wait to see what that Firestorm rule does. Moving on. Scimitar Jet Bike Squadron. So these guys, right from the get-go, do not have the Vanguard special rule. And I suppose that's because they're here with heavy weapons, right? Your jet bikes are more to go around the flanks and to sit back, smashing the enemy with those heavy weapons, as opposed to your Outriders, which are all about getting in nice and close, which is hinted at by that pistol piece, right? But here we've got the jet bikes. The stats look pretty similar to 2nd edition. I'm not seeing anything overly interesting there. Do they? Interestingly, they've come down in points. Okay. And I think that's appropriate because, of course, moving from 1st edition to 2nd edition, they lost so much. They lost toughness. They lost that 2+ armor save. They did gain a wound, but they still felt a little expensive. So to see them come down to 95 points is quite nice. To get additional ones is still 30 points. That looks pretty similar. But you're saving 10 points overall on the 3 jet bikes there. But they are cavalry and cannot hold objectives. I am really looking forward to seeing what the White Scars can do, whether their cavalry can hold objectives, because if not, that's going to be a significant issue. I've talked about that previously. But what else do we have? Now, they can deep strike as per previous, but they've lost a bunch of special rules. So they don't have the multiple firing protocols rule anymore, so you're not getting to shoot your heavy weapon and your bolt pistol, but I don't think that's the end of the world. They don't have Relentless, but you don't really need it anymore. I think Relentless will be taken away from almost all units. We'll see how heavy weapons interacts with vehicles, but the idea is that you can now fire heavy weapons while moving, but if you don't move, they get an advantage. So oh dear. What did I do? What did I just do? All right, hang on. Let's get back into it. All right, there we go. We're back. All right. There we go. Sorry about that. So Relentless, I think, will disappear across the board, and units will simply have to choose between whether they want to move and lose those advantages or whether they want to sit still and still keep them. Let's see. Well, that seems the points seem pretty similar from a heavy weapons perspective. What else can I do? So you can get an augury scanner here, and it looks like augury scanners will not be able to be taken across the board like previous because they're not in that equipment list that we saw up the top. Oh, something to mention, which I haven't talked about yet: Artificer armor. So sergeants across the board, it doesn't look like they're able to take Artificer anymore. Thank goodness. I've been talking about this for a while. I really wanted to see it, and it looks like that has come through. Now, the sergeant may exchange weapons, that's about right. You can get Legion pistols again, so lots of heavy flamers or plasma pistols if you're not heavy flamers. Flamer pistols? And flamer pistols, and plasma pistols, that kind of stuff if you're that way inclined. But I think you'll be sitting back with these guys with their heavy bolters or their Volkite culverins, multi-melters, plasma cannons, and just shooting away. So that is the jet bike squadron there. They've come down in points a little, which is nice, but they have lost a bunch of special rules. No longer do they have hit and run. They don't have Hammer of Wrath. We'll wait and see. They're cavalry, so they can't hold objectives, but we will see if certain legions can do that. And that's it. That is all the leaks that I wanted to talk about this morning, mainly because that's all I have time for. I'm going to get this up nice and quick. I will be coming back to those other Legion-specific rules at a later time, and no doubt as the leaks keep flowing, I'll keep getting them to you. Thank you so much for watching, and importantly, make sure to keep rolling those dice and getting hyped for Heresy.